Welcome back. This is part 6 of a multi-part series on modeling our data architecture. In our last episode, we brought in our data architecture building blocks, and we're headed into high-level design, and we're going to touch on that in this part. So let's get started. If you haven't already done so, please hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on notifications so you can keep up with us in the development and implementation, as well as learning UML in Sparx Enterprise Architect, as well as other tools, which we will be starting to get into soon. So the data science architecture group has already started working on high-level design, and that's in alignment with the discussions that we've had during our solution approach work efforts, especially working with our client stakeholders, and they're ready to apply this back to their architecture diagram here, as well as the building block diagram that we developed in release 1 and carry it over to release 2. Again, our focus is on data supply, machine learning AI, and cloud data, which has a lot of things and tools, platforms, and frameworks under it, which are going to be applied to this project. The first thing they're going to do is go to the solution approach building block diagram here, which is this model that's right here, and they're going to clone this. So we've learned this in previous episode. Clone structure as new version, and this is going to be version 3 of the building block diagram, and they're going to put it in their own design namespace. So they're going to put it under design HLD in this case. You can put it anywhere you want. Hit OK, and now it's cloning this model. You can see here within design HLD. We'll go ahead and open it. You can see it's the same as this originating model, which we will now close. The next thing they're going to do, let's right click, find in browser, is they're going to clone the data science architecture platforms, frameworks, and tools that we agreed on. So they're going to right click on this, clone this structure as new. And again, this is version 02. We want to make it 03 for the data science group. So we're going to hit OK. We're going to go down to design, and we're going to put it in the design HLD. Let's hit OK. And here we go. We now have the data science structure and diagram. You'll notice there are no elements. These elements are still in the originating source, just as these building blocks are. All right, after closing the originating source, we're in the design namespace, and what we're going to do is give these packages a unique name. So the package for the building blocks, the architecture building blocks, the diagram, the roles here, let's give this a name. And then the data science tooling, let's give this a name. We're just going to call this DSA. Let's go to this namespace first, go in an order, and make sure the diagrams, the packages have a unique name that separate them from the originating source from solution approach. Minimize solution approach, make sure we're in design. This is what we're focused on. We'll start with the tooling, and we're going to clone actually this entire elements that are right here, and hit Control A to select everything. We're going to right click on one element, clone element or elements as new, and we're going with the diagram version, which is 03. And we're going to hit OK. So now it takes all of these and clones these elements within our tooling. Let's go ahead and open it up just to double check, and then just pick anything in here. Hit Alt G, and you can see we brought in all of these elements as a different version from solution approach. All right, we're done with that package. We're going to go down to our architecture building blocks here. And this is our data science architecture, DSA, release 2 architecture building blocks. We're only focused on this element, this element, this element. We need service exchange. We definitely need the runtime fabric, and the control plane. So we're going to start with giving these a version. Again, pick any element here, clone element or elements as new version 03. And there we go. These are all now in this model. Let's go to roles and double check something. We'll just pick one right here and hit Alt G. It took us to discussions, the original source of R1. You can see in the namespace here. So what I'm going to do is right click in here, find in diagram. I'm not going to worry about this one. I am going to delete it. I can always come back to roles or reference solution architecture or the originating release 1 source for the architecture building blocks. All right. All right. So now we have a working copy to start design of the building blocks for release 2. This is for the data science architecture. And what we can do is we can go to layout, we can turn on filters. And what we want to do is go down here to version, and we're going to filter by 03. And you can see here it's highlighted, enabled the only elements that are in this particular diagram. And you can do the same thing for this, but we know that all of these, I still have 03 in here, are part of 03, and the partitions are not. So here we go. We are ready with our models. Let's go ahead and turn off filtering, go back up here. Filtering is off. We have everything in here, or you can leave it in there. That helps you focus on the elements, whether they're class elements or any elements that are version 3. So what we're going to do now is, this is our cover page. What we want to do is we want to bring in our elements so we can navigate to them. This is locked right now, so I'm going to unlock it, and then we're going to move this as a navigation cell in, and we'll pick an image later. And then let's see here, the design tooling, we want to bring this one in as a navigation cell. Just hit escape or OK. And we have these in here so that we can navigate. Now, what I like to do, I'm in design, is I'm going to hit the space bar. Let's go down to viewpoints and add in a working set. I'll add a document in later on. So the working set, we'll just double click. We'll give it a name later on. It has the main. We don't need it. We don't need the analysis, which is this cover page, because we're going to be on it, and we need these two. All right, so it'll bring them up when we hit this page. All right, so now we have a working set, and we can give it a name, DSA working set, or whatever you want to, like for instance, get longer and say working set for release 1 and so on, so that it's meaningful for you when you hit this page. Let's make sure that we're saving. The next step is probably the most important step, and that's what we want to do is you can baseline here at the parent folder or baseline any of these packages. So at this particular point, I am going to baseline at the parent folder, Control Alt and B. We're going to create a new baseline. This is going to be 01. I don't need the time in here, although it might be a good idea for you to have the time if you're working very quickly throughout the single day. Otherwise, the date is fine. We're going to hit OK. So now we have a baseline of our design folder, and then we can go through and baseline any of these packages like HLD. We can baseline this package here, doing the same thing if we want to. But make sure you're baselining. Very, very important so that you're able to look at differences. And you've all learned about timelines. So we're able to go into a particular model. And in this model, we can go to timelines. And you're able to view snapshots of work that you've done over a period of time. Plus, you can save those snapshots. And you've learned about that in time-aware modeling. Now you can set up your navigation any way you want. I'm at this particular model here, and our originating our parent package, if we go up here, is design. And this is going to get us to high-level design, all right? And then what we want to do is go back to our design analysis. Once again, I'm going to find it in the browser, go back over here to high level design, and I want to bring and be able to navigate to this particular element as well. Be sure to say we got an asterisk here. Check these other ones. Make sure you're saving. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize HLD. I don't need it anymore right now. I want to keep my high level design document up. I'm going to minimize this one, and I want my building blocks up. I can turn on filtering to focus, and I have my tooling up. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and minimize design or close it. So from the main page, I'm able to go to design HLD, navigate very quickly to the diagrams. I want to call these elements that I need to for my working. All right. And I can always come back up and update my working set here. Let's go ahead and edit, check it. Yes, everything, nothing's changed. I don't need to navigate to these. Hit OK. And now we're ready to go forward. One more test. We're going to close everything except for the main cover page. Open up design, go to HLD, go here to working set, and there we go. So if you want this up, you can add it to your working set. If not, don't worry about it. Right now, we're just going to be focused on the building blocks and the tooling, as well as our main artifact. So our main artifact is right here in Design HLD. Go ahead and double click it and open it up. And now the data science architecture group can start applying the nouns and verbs to the applications that they're going to be focused on for this release. The next thing the data architects are going to do is go to their high-level design document, and they can certainly do this in modeling and then print reports that look like this. And they're going to look for the nouns and verbs of the applications they believe are impacting this particular release. So they're going to go through data layer, data sources, down here, data collection, and the first one we run across is Snowflake. So we're going to go back to our tooling. We're going to find Snowflake in here, and then we can start putting in our release 2 design notes at this application level. And they'll do the same for all the applications that they believe are impacted somehow. It could be complete reuse, could be new. OneTrust, here's a good one. That's new. So in their notes, we have just now started contracting with OneTrust for data collection, and we will explain that as its role in privacy regulations in the architecture. So we're going to go through the entire high-level design document and add and delete. We're going to discover via requirement nouns and verbs, as well as the building block nouns and verbs, what are impacted in design as we proceed. So what we're going to do is go back to our design tooling. And if you have too many tabs open, you can always close everything except what you're focused on, which would do this right here. But we're going to leave everything up. You just want to keep your environment clean. All right, so we were on Snowflake as our first one, and we're going to come over here on Snowflake. We're going to open it up. And then what we're going to do is put in our design assumptions, at least at a high level, as we're working through this. All right, now we're going to look at phase and take advantage. So the solution architect didn't make any changes to the tooling. We asked them not to, and leave that up to design. So we're going to put in R2 as our fill-in for phase in this metadata for this element. You could certainly use tag values, create a tag value for release, and do that data here, which is something I like to do. But we're going to use, for this episode, the Sparx phase field here to populate. So we're going to hit OK. Now we're going back to layouts, and in filtering, we want to filter by phase as we're doing this work. So we go down here and we find phase. We're going to put in R2, and now it's highlighting as we're working through our architecture building blocks here, highlighting what we've touched on and targeted for a particular release, in this case, release 2. As we're working through this effort and tagging the phase that we believe they're going to be impacted in, OneTrust is new. So when we double click on this and we open this up and we go to tag values, There's no intelligence in here in tag values. There are no tag values. We want to add some. So we created a script for that. You learned about this in this channel. So we're going to hit Alt-G on OneTrust, find it in the browser right here. Then we're going to right click on this, go to Specialize, Scripts, and we wrote a script to add tag values to elements here. So add tags to new existing class. So let's go ahead and select it. And now let's refresh, go to it. Now let's double click it. And if we go to tags, we've added our basic tags to this element. Impact, we can come here, and this is new. All right, we're going to put N for new, and you might want to put some notes on why you believe this is new. Contract with vendor, and you could put as much as you want to explain why a particular application is considered new for this release. Now we'll go through later on, populate these other tags where it's telling us to make a selection, the level of effort. This could be extreme or it could be very simple down to test or test support. But we have a lot of modifications to make on this one and the decisions that we need to make. We're going to just set a default of complex in the tag values here for this, and that's all we're going to do. So with filtering turned on, layouts, and our focus is on R2, we start to look at our diagram here on what we've already touched on and why. And again, we can use time-aware modeling to help us understand what has taken place over a period of time. Now, some tools that we've built in this channel, and I'll try to include the links down below, are SQL. So we go to Start, we go to Search, we go to Model, we go down to My Custom Searches, and then we want to look for tag values by application or tag values by connections. Let's do tag values by operations. We can look at the SQL. In this case, we're focused on this package only, and there's lots of SQL you can write just to assume that you're in this package. So that's the only thing I want you to search, but this is the way we wrote the SQL. Let's go ahead and hit this. Then what we want to do for tag values is look for impact. And then if we come down to OneTrust, which was added here, you can see that we're starting to see the tag values in here. And we can look for SQL that has us look for releases like R2 and all sorts of ways to approach this to help you move faster. So we have a lot of work to do here to go through this tooling, platforms, and frameworks as part of this design. There are so many tools in Sparx for you to use if you have not built any custom SQL or things like that. So also in this channel, you've learned how to switch views. You can list views, specification view, relationship matrix, and more, right? I like to go to list view, and it's listing all of the applications or platforms or frameworks that are in this. So you'll see we have a status proposed. We can come up here and filter one by one or just go down the list. Let's go to Snowflake, one we just looked at. And what we can do is go ahead and say we've validated the impact on this one. So we moved it from proposed to validated. And we can do that for all of the elements in which we are validating as we're going through our notes, our conference call meetings, and as well as, of course, our HLD itself. Another reason I like to be in this particular view is that I can right-click at the header here, field chooser, and I can add any other fields that I want. In this case, I'm doing analysis. I want to apply things to a particular release. I want to look at that. I'm able to very quickly get to it. And I can also add tag values, all right? So let's look for impact and let's see if it comes up. Global values, and I have impact over here. I'm going to move this field over here. So now when I'm doing my analysis, I can look at applications and state, well, what's the impact? It's targeted for release 2, but is it new? Is it impacted by enhancing work or whatever tag values that we're using for each application? But right now I'm only focused on phase, so I can drag and drop this out to remove it, and I can add it back at any time. All right, as we start finishing up, let's go ahead and close this filter here. And let's close this filter here. We're only looking at data. To look at the full list, we're able to look at the types of elements. So we're only focused on class elements, or you can change what elements you're focused on. You can also use this pivot type table here. We're going to go phase, drop it in here. So this is phase 1. These are the applications that still exist there. We're not done yet, but for release 2, we've added these elements here, and then we can go through and start changing these things as we're validating. And I'm just going to put V to show how far we validated these so far. Let's go ahead and close that filter. And we have to go through these proposed to continue our design analysis. All right, we're going to break this up. This video is already getting longer than I want it to be. I think I'm going to have a second part to this, so we'll handle more in the next part. But basically what we've done so far is we've gone through, we've validated our architecture. We're filtered by phase. Let's take phase out of filter. There are pivot. And we've added in 2 tag value columns. All right. So let me just reset these sorts. And what I want to do is I want to look at status. There we go. We'll bring this over. K8s, Kubernetes, targeting release 2. It is new. It is not approved. It is validated. So we're going to change it to validated, and that's going to move down into the validated sort. We're still looking through these that are proposed. Let's just go ahead and minimize that. But in our tag values, now we understand phase. So what I want to do is just look for R2. Has everything in release 2. We have 2 tag values. We can bring in a cheat sheet if you want, and basically how we get to tag values, if you're allowed, we go to UML types, we go to tag values, and you can sit here and look at, we have impact and effort. So there's effort. You can see what each one of them means. You can bring them in, and impact, and you can bring in your cheat sheet if you want. You can certainly add it in your model as an element, have it in another window, but I keep it out of the way so that you can understand. If you don't, I know them by heart. So development, test, and so on as it goes down. P is still pending. All right. These are key ones that we're going to want to look at in our next journey back to our analysis. So we'll focus on that and so much more. So these are validated. We can pivot any way that we want. Move status out. We want to pivot by impact. We can certainly do that. These are new. Development, pending, test, and test support as we go through. So this becomes very valuable in your analysis as you're going through when you're doing your modeling and getting started, especially in design. Do the same thing in solutioning, but normally we're working with the application architects. I wanted to say the design and developer architects as we're going through and doing this analysis. But design, you want to get to as quickly as possible. Don't wait until you're done with solution and have it approved. Get back in here, and this allows you to slice and dice your views. From list views, we can switch view to specification view, and we can look at phase and impact here as we're going through, as we start to add in our design notes for our architecture. So that's going to do it for this episode. Again, we're going to split this up because I don't want it to get too long. So this was part 6 of the series on doing design in Sparx. We're going to have part 7, which is going to split up design so we can get into gap analysis, more detailed specification analysis, and prepare for our first design reports. All right. So part 7 was supposed to be reporting and document management. So we're going to move that to part 8, and we'll see where we go from there. All right. So until that next episode, happy modeling.